Okay? So picture this. Japan's most infamous forest nestled quietly at the base of the majestic Mount Fuji. It's called Aokigahara, also known as the Sea of Trees. Some people call it that because, from above, it really does look like an endless ocean of green. But ask anyone who's lived nearby, and they'll tell you it's not just the trees that run deep. It's what the forest holds. On the surface, it's breathtaking. In the spring, it glows with life. In the winter, it's blanketed in snow, turning everything into something out of a fairy tale. But the deeper you walk, the heavier the air becomes. The ground itself feels uneven, made up of old lava flows from Fuji's past eruptions. It's silent and naturally so. Even animals keep their distance. And when the wind does pick up, it doesn't sound right. It almost sounds like it's circling around you, not passing through. Local hikers call it the maze. Trails lead somewhere until they don't. Landmarks look familiar until they don't. Some say compasses spin out here. Others say even GPS glitches out. But what everyone seems to agree on is this. If you're not careful, you might start to feel like the forest is responding to you, not reacting, responding. And here's what makes it even more intense. The forest has a reputation for being a place where people bring their sorrow. It's a weight that you feel just by standing there, even if you didn't know the history. It's heavy, like something lingering in the air, just waiting. But here's where it gets confusing, because it's also undeniably beautiful. When the sun filters through the leaves, when the mist rolls across the roots, it's almost peaceful. The contrast is wild. It feels like you're in two worlds at once. One that's alive and inviting, and one that's quietly watching you, calculating. That's why, when we planned this trip, we knew we couldn't just talk about Aoki. We had to go, experience it, document it, understand what makes it so different from any other forest on Earth. So that's what we did. We packed light but smart. Flashlights, extra batteries, trail markers, a satellite GPS tracker, voice recorders, and even small charms we were gifted by a local monk. No joke, he handed them to us and just said, "For your return." That was it. No smile, no warning, just those words. We entered right before sunset, with just enough light to get oriented. The first few steps were uneventful, just a normal forest. Moss-covered rocks, narrow dirt paths, the crunch of boots on volcanic gravel. But even then, something was off. You know that feeling you get when you walk into a room where people were just arguing, that tension. That's how it felt. And as the sun dipped behind Fuji, the shift was immediate. The forest didn't feel empty anymore. It felt full, like it had noticed us footsteps. Check, faint, distant, echoing between the trees, like someone was just pacing, just far enough that you couldn't see them. Whispering, maybe could have been wind, but the weird thing, it always came from behind us. No matter which direction we turned, we tried to stay calm. We had our gear, we had a plan, and we knew what we were walking into. But Aokigahara doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't need to do much to throw you off. A bend in the trail that wasn't there before, a marker that vanishes, the sound of your own voice echoing back to you, just slightly delayed. And let me tell you something real. When you're in the middle of that forest, miles from the edge, and everything around you looks exactly the same: trees that twist like arms, moss that covers everything, and silence so loud it feels like it's pressing against your skull. You start to realize this place doesn't just feel haunted, it is aware. And I know that sounds dramatic, but that's how it felt. Aokigahara doesn't try to scare you with jump scares. It doesn't need ghosts popping out from behind trees. Its power is in its stillness, in its ability to make you second-guess every step, in the way it whispers to your gut, you shouldn't be here. We kept moving, marking trees, checking our gear, filming as we went. But there were moments, brief, intense moments, when time felt weird, like we were moving through syrup. The air wasn't just cold, it was heavy. Our voices sounded muffled, even to ourselves. And then came the pressure. Not physical, not like a weight on your back. More like the sensation that something was very close, not visible, not aggressive, just there, watching, waiting. It's hard to explain unless you felt it. It wasn't fear like a horror movie. It was a slow burn, a creeping dread that sat in your stomach and just kept growing. A feeling that the deeper you went, the less likely you were to come back as yourself. Not lost, but changed. And that's when we realized we had to finish the night. Not just for the footage, but because backing out felt wrong. Like if we turned around too early, the forest would know, that it would remember us, that it would call us back. We didn't just explore a Kigahara dot. We stepped into its territory, and by the end of that night, we weren't sure if it wanted us gone or if it was deciding whether to let us go at all. We arrived at the main entrance around 6 p.m. The parking lot was eerily quiet, empty, except for our van. Cold asphalt stretched out under those classic yellow sodium lights, the kind that makes everything look a little washed out, a little unreal. It didn't help that the surrounding trees already felt like they were creeping in, looming over the pavement like curious sentinels. That's where we met our two local guides, Yuta and Aya. Both were seasoned hikers who grew up just a few towns over. They knew the legends, sure, but they also knew the real terrain. They weren't thrill seekers, they were cautious, respectful, and honestly, we were glad to have them. Each of them carried a GPS tracker, backup batteries, headlamps, and something else, small ceramic statues of Jizu, the Buddhist guardian known to protect travelers and lost souls. Aya handed us each one and simply said, "Keep it close." By 6:45 p.m., we stood face to face with the last official sign before entering the sea of trees. A white post with bold red letters that read, "Do not enter after dark. You are responsible for your own life." It wasn't theatrical. It wasn't dramatic. The kind of sign that doesn't try to scare you. It just tells the truth. The moment we stepped beyond that marker, the atmosphere shifted like someone hit a mute button on reality. No bugs, no rustling, no wind. Even our footsteps sounded softer. Aya whispered, "It's like the forest listens." And honestly, it did feel like we were being overheard. Twilight here didn't behave normally. The light dimmed fast, not like a normal sunset, where shadows stretch and fade. No, in Aokigahara, it felt like the trees just swallowed the last of the light. 1 minute, you could see the moss on the trunks. The next, blackness was pouring in from above, and you couldn't tell where the trail ended or where it began. We switched to flashlights quickly. Torches out, headlamps on, but even with our lights, everything looked the same: twisted tree trunks, tangled roots, moss-covered boulders. No wildlife, not even the chirp of a bird. It was like the entire forest was paused. YUTA kept checking the GPS. We stuck to what was supposed to be the old North Trail, mostly safe, well-traveled route. But nothing about this walk felt familiar or secure. That's when things got weird. Around 8:40 p.m., we came across something that made everyone stop. A trail fork. But according to our map and GPS, that fork didn't exist. It wasn't on any satellite image, not even a remnant of an old path. It was just there. Two clear trails, diverging into different directions. And we had definitely been walking straight. We stood there for a good 5 minutes, just staring. GPS said we were 3 kilometers off course. Let that sink in. 3 full kilometers from the route we had marked less than an hour earlier. That's when that quiet tension turned into something more tangible. You could feel it pressing in, like the forest had moved around us when we weren't looking. AA's flashlight started flickering. Not dead batteries, these were brand new. She tapped it, replaced them. Nothing. UTAS compass. Spinning slowly in a circle, as if unsure what direction even existed anymore. We marked the spot with a glow stick and tied a small ribbon around a tree, but even that felt futile. What if we walked away and came back and the ribbon was gone? What if the trees themselves didn't want to be marked? Still, we picked the left path, pure instinct. No reason, just less oppressive, but it felt like a choice, and not a casual one. Like choosing the wrong one might cost us more than just time. From that moment on, it was like the forest decided to stop pretending to be normal. Every creak of a tree felt louder. Every breath felt heavier. Our group got quieter. Conversations became whispers. No one said it out loud, but we were all thinking the same thing. We weren't alone out there anymore, and maybe we never were. Around 10 p.m., we reached this strange clearing formed by hardened lava rock flat, uneven but oddly clean. No leaves, no moss, just cracked black stone underfoot. It should have felt like a safe spot. Open sky above, fewer trees. A place to pause, maybe even catch your breath. But there was something about it that felt wrong. It was too quiet, not peaceful. Sterile-like sound didn't belong there. Aya called it a dead zone. Yuta didn't want to stop moving, but we were exhausted. So we set down our packs, drank water, double-checked gear. That's when we heard it. A low, dull thud from inside the tree line. Not wind, not an animal. It sounded intentional, like a footstep landing on a hollow log. We froze, pointed lights into the trees. Nothing, just black. Then again, a crack, this time closer. The kind of sound that makes your brain run a checklist without you realizing it. Is it an animal? A person? Something else? Aya whispered. Trees don't do that in silence. She was right. Aokigahara is known for muffling sound. Thick roots, soft earth, dense moss. You don't hear much out here. So when you do, it matters. And then everything shifted, not visually, not dramatically, but felt. A sound began. A low frequency, hum, not from one direction, but everywhere. It wasn't wind, it wasn't vibration, it was inside. like someone dropped fork into the center of your chest. It rattled your ribs, buzzed your spine, subtle at first, but rising, resonating, and then it shifted, not in tone, but in feeling. It no longer sounded like just a hum. It felt like chanting, but too faint to identify any words, not language, just tone, cadence, emotion, that eerie sensation of something ancient, not hostile, not friendly, just present, spiritual. Maybe, but not peaceful. We didn't vote. We didn't talk. We just started walking. Instinct said, leave. YUT. Led the way with GPS in hand. Aya kept turning back. I was in the middle, and I remember this clear as day, my feet hurting from how tense I was, clenching my toes inside my boots. We walked fast, not running, but pushing forward hard. No jokes, no talking, only our breaths and the crunch of gravel underfoot. And then, something was wrong again. After what felt like 10 to 15 minutes of brisk hiking, we emerged back at the lava clearing. Same rock, same scuffed spot where Aya dropped her water bottle earlier. Same surroundings. We all stopped. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Not out of confusion, out of fear. Cold, sharp, physical fear, because we had not turned around. We had gone straight, followed the GPS, followed our footprints, and yet here we were, back where we started. YUTA checked the tracker, the route data garbled like it had jumped backwards. He reset the device. Aya marked a tree with chalk, and we set off again, slower, this time, focused, more deliberate. We used a compass. We laid a string behind us. Breadcrumb method, old school. But this time, about 7 minutes in, we lost the trail entirely. Not missed a turn, lost, trail, gone, just vanished. The dirt path we were on gradually became soft, uneven terrain. No marks, no branches pushed aside. The air thickened, and when we turned around, the string was gone, completely gone, like we had never laid it. Aya swore she tied it herself, tight, bright red, PARACORD. Nothing. YUTA. Tried shining his brightest beam into the fog, but it only lit more fog. It was like walking through soup. Light didn't travel. Sound didn't carry. We switched flashlights. White beam, red beam, high-intensity strobe. Still nothing. Trees ahead, trees behind. But no markers, no trail. The clearing, gone. The direction we came from, undetectable. Every tree looked closer. Not physically, not obviously, just wrong. Like they had leaned in while we weren't looking. Like we were walking inside a breath, held by something much, much larger. We stopped again, tried sitting, regrouping, but even resting didn't help. The sense of being watched never left. It wasn't paranoia. It was primal, like your brain, screaming behind your rational thoughts. This place is not normal. You are not alone. At that point, all of us knew something we hadn't said out loud. Yet, Aokigahara wasn't just letting us in, it was playing with us, and we had no idea if it planned to let us go. Finally, sometime around 2 a.m. after what felt like a full day of wandering, we stumbled into a clearing, barely illuminated by the pale light of our dying headlamps. It wasn't like the lava rock space from earlier. This place felt old, reverent. There, Under a knotted cedar tree, we saw them, a cluster of tiny, handmade Jizo statues, dozens of them, some no taller than a soda can, others maybe a foot high. Most were chipped, moss-covered, their little robes faded by rain and time. But each one had a face painted with such human emotion, it stopped us in our tracks. Some smiled softly, others wept and nestled among them. Half buried in earth and wrapped in thin roots was an old rusted iron bell, small enough to hold, but clearly fixed in place, with a delicate chain dangling from a gnarled wooden post. Aya knelt in front of it. She grew up with these statues, protectors of children, travelers, lost souls. In a whisper, she said, "We need to acknowledge them, ask permission." None of us objected, so she reached out and gently pulled the chain. Once, just once, the bell let out a low metallic ring, not sharp, but rich, deep, like it had been waiting to sound again. But what came next, none of us expected. The ring didn't just echo, dotted, multiplied. It bounced between trees, reflected, layered, warped. It became a chorus not from any speakers or obvious source, but as if the forest itself was responding. The air thickened with the vibration, the sound wrapping around us like a slow tide. Then silence, not just quiet, complete stillness. And in that suffocating pause, we heard it. Footsteps, soft, slow, crunching dry leaves, but not ours. We froze in place, lights off, no movement, just ears straining into the dark. Yuta whispered, "Someone else." But we hadn't seen another soul all night. He called out, "Hello." Nothing. We stood still, breath held, listening. That's when the bell moved, not rang. Moved, not to sound like metal shifting, 3 soft thuds against the post. No breeze, no hands, just something tapping it, deliberate, rhythmic, like an answer. Aya's eyes widened. That's not random. She was right, because when we looked closer, really looked, the chain on the bell was swaying. Not a big movement, but enough to know it had been touched, and yet there was no one near it. That was it for us. My adrenaline spiked so fast I felt it in my throat. Yuta clenched his flashlight like a weapon. Aya started whispering a Buddhist mantra under her breath, and I felt something crawl up my back. Not physical, emotional, like a cold presence climbing my spine. A sensation that didn't come from fear, but from recognition. Whatever had tapped that bell knew we were there. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't a falling branch. That bell rang for us, like a doorbell, like a greeting, or maybe a warning. At that point, half of us were done keeping calm. Yuta snapped, first took off to the right, without a word. Flashlight beam bouncing like a strobe between trees. I shouted, but he didn't stop. Aya grabbed my arm and yanked me left, the opposite way. I didn't even have time to argue. We ran. Branches clawed at our jackets like they didn't want us to go. I tripped once, caught my balance, but I swear I felt something brush the back of my neck. Not a twig, something colder. We didn't speak, just ran. The forest didn't just feel dense anymore, it felt like it was shifting. As if we were inside a living maze. Roots twisted up where there hadn't been any before. The air grew thicker. Our breath came in visible clouds, even though it wasn't cold earlier. And the lights, they started flickering. My flashlight dimmed. and brightened in bursts. I turned, ready to yell for Yuta, but nothing, not a sound, not a glimpse of his light. He was gone. I stopped, panting hard. Aya grabbed my shoulder. Wide. We scanned around, called his name in unison. No response. Not even the sound of him crashing through brush. Just emptiness. The strangest part. Our voices didn't echo. They just died in the trees. Like the forest swallowed sound, too. Then came the worst realization. We were back. Same clearing. Same tiny shrine. Same weather-worn Jizo statues. And the unmoved iron bell. We had sprinted for what felt like 15 minutes and ended up where we started. I checked my GPS no signal compass. Spinning dot. And then Yuta emerged from the trees, slowly, like someone stepping out of water. He didn't speak at first. He was pale, drenched in sweat, and his flashlight dangled in one hand, blinking in and out. When he finally whispered, it was like he didn't even know he'd made it back. "I thought I got out," he said, voice shaking. "I thought I made it to the road." But he hadn't. According to him, he ran straight, only straight. No turns, no hesitation. And yet the trees pulled him in deeper. The undergrowth thickened. He saw things, shape slipping between trunks, not fully visible. Like the shadows had depth. He swore he saw feet. Not full people, just legs, ankle to shin, standing still behind a tree. When he approached, they vanished, but always more behind the next one. Always just out of reach, trail markers. He left. 3 himself using chalk and twine, but they repeated 1, 2, 3 thun, back to 1. Over and over, he was being looped. It knew I was trying to leave, he muttered, and it didn't like that. Then, something in his eyes chilled me more than the story. He looked at us, not past us, and said, "I wasn't supposed to come back." Aya and I just stood there, stunned. Even the forest went still. No rustle, no hum. We waited, hoping dawn would break. But even the sky refused to change color. Most haunted places scare you. Aokigahara didn't just scare us, it tried to keep us. Not in a classic horror movie kind of way. There were no loud jump scares, no monstrous figures lunging out of the dark, no sudden bursts of noise. It was subtle. Worse, actually, it was intentional. That forest didn't feel like it was chasing Yuset, felt like it was tethering us, holding onto us with invisible threads, guiding us, yes, but never out, always inward. It didn't just split us up by accident, rearranged us like pieces on a board. Like it knew the moment our fear peaked and then moved the trees accordingly. The terrain seemed to fold in on itself. Paths that should have led out turned us in circles. Our GPS glitched constantly. Compasses spun. Time dragged and then snapped. Every minute stretched, then vanished. At one point, I swear, I could hear my own voice somewhere ahead, calling back. To me, not an echo, not an echo. My exact voice. Same cadence, same words I whispered to myself earlier to stay calm. We realized something awful that night. Aokigahara isn't just haunted, it's alive. It studies you. It doesn't want to frighten you away. It wants to see how long you'll stay, how deep you'll go before you break. And if you break, how easily it can bury you in silence. Wuta described it best the next morning. He said, it didn't want to chase us. It wanted us to give up, to lie down, just once, just stop trying. Because once you stop trying, it wins. And once you stop thinking straightens, you believe this is where you and do become part of the forest. A thread added to its labyrinth. Maybe that's why so many people go missing there and are never found. Not because they weren't strong, but because the forest convinces them to stay. Aya told us she doesn't even remember parts of the night. She's convinced something was whispering directions in her ear. Not in Japanese, not in English, just sounds, vowels. But somehow they made sense. That's how this place works. Not like a ghost house, more like a psychic trap. So what do we do with that? How do you process a forest that acts like a mirror, reflecting the deepest parts of your fear? For us, we got out, but even now, we're not sure we ever fully left. Asterisk, asterisk, if you've ever hiked alone, heard footsteps or whispers, or felt a forest watch, hit me up in the comments, or send the story email below. Your encounter could be next. Thanks for making it through our night in the sea of trees. If you loved or feared this story, give it a like and subscribe for more real horror adventures into cursed places, fringe folklore, and unexplained encounters. You won't want to miss what's next.